Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Techospace podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm very much honored and thrilled to welcome our guest, Mr. Jason Vandermeer, who happens to be based in Brisbane, Queensland, Australia. Now, giving a spotlight about what Jason is. Jason is a technical director international about Torus company, and now giving a complete, an ideology, or let's say an overview about Torus company. Torus company was founded in the year 2001, an Australian-based company and the IoT-backed world's first IoT-backed cloud key management system company. Now, and along with that, today's episode is going to be really interesting because this is the first time that the TechOSpace podcast is going to be covering about the cloud-first key management system. And I'm really, really looking forward for, having a lot of, a deep discussion and insightful conversation based on this. And having said that, the slogan which Taurus company goes is making the key management system easy, and along with that, reducing the operational hassles and risks around the physical keys. So, Jason, it gives me an absolute honor to welcome you to this podcast session of mine, and I'm really looking forward to having a great conversation and an insightful one. So, how are you doing, and how did you spend your weekend this time?
Oh, thank you, Akil, and thank you for having me. How did I spend my weekend? Weekend was quite nice. I actually spent some time with my kids and just unwound after a busy few weeks, right, for us here at Taurus. So it was a great weekend. So thank you for asking. I hope you had a great weekend too.
It was a good one. I would say a busy one because a lot of, I would just say, some university work, let's say, with respect to the assignments and all. Yeah, that's how it goes on with.
Never ends with uni.
Not at all, not at all, never. But it's fun again. Just get used to it.
Very good.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent.
So Jason, at the stroke of this hour, which is 2:30 p.m. in Melbourne, and again the same time in Brisbane, let's kick off with the podcast segment.
Yeah,
All
sure.
right. Yeah. So Jason, just tell me about this. Like, what are your roles and responsibilities as a technical director international of Taurus company?
Yeah. Okay. So again, thank you again for having me, and to sort of outline it. So Taurus is a company that is a product that's owned by a company called CIC Technology. And CIC Technology, yes, a great Australian business, has been around since 2001 and is a major player in the key management space here in Australia. In August last year, I co-founded a business called Inverse Curve, which took on the global distributorship of Torus to the broader market outside of the US and Australia. My role as technical director is to formulate those strategies of go-to-market and understand where Torus and our key management solution can fit within the different markets and sectors across the quite diverse markets that we have, across Asia, Middle East, Africa, and then across more broadly as we grow into Europe. So what does that actually entail? Well, that entails understanding the deep technology behind both the Taurus equipment, the key cabinet itself, but also their software platform, which is a Microsoft Azure IoT hub solution. And so really it's quite nitty gritty, lots getting involved in how the technology is formulated and then how we deploy that to customers. You can obviously understand having a solution like ours, which is backed in the cloud, comes with a little bit of trepidation from some certain markets around embracing the cloud and taking security solutions into that space. So my job really is to work with customer to really alleviate their fears, really show them how the Taurus technology operates and works, and then to work with our partners to help deploy those solutions across to the end customer.
That's brilliant. Now, Jason, if I would just like to ask this or understand this, like why specifically did you only choose, Europe and Africa out of all the, regions? What is the specification based on that?
Yeah, so well, we haven't quite got to Europe yet. So what we're focused on, we do have some platform in the UK, and Taurus manages that direct. From our perspective, being Taurus International, where we're really focused on is really growth into Asia and India. That's primarily where we're putting a lot of our effort into at the moment. But then also to focus on where we've got some strength into the Middle East. The Middle East market is, there's lots of hotels, there's lots of growth potential in that area, as well as healthcare, military, and government defense. So one of the big things that we're focused on is finding where every business has keys that they need to manage, but find where those critical keys and assets are that they could really use the benefits of a solution like Taurus. And so
That
we
that's
really
that,
just been focused on finding those markets where we know there is a need.
that's excellent to know, Jason. That's pretty much interesting. Now, I mean, yes, of course, like when you were talking about the Middle East, there's a huge scope there, and the market is pretty much good. And even with respect to tourism, because tourism is one thing in Middle East, especially like if you take the countries of Dubai and Qatar and Saudi Arabia for that matter, everything is going on a boom, and so yeah, there's a huge potential for that. I totally understand.
Yeah, no, there is at the moment there is. I mean, of Dubai itself has gone through its massive boom, and now what we're seeing is the likes of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and then into Qatar and other countries there as well, which maybe we'll get to. But we're starting to focus on where there is great investment there, but also where they've already where we know that they have a need to elevate and bring more technology in to help support their business and their operations. So that's what we're looking for and educating the market on at the moment.
Amazing, amazing, Jason. So now, Jason, like, can you give me an insight on technical product? Can you give me an insight on technical project leadership? And along with that, can you give me more heads up with respect to the cloud first key control system in Taurus company?
Yeah, I mean, so from a technical leadership bit, and as I sort of touched on just before, Akil, is one of the big things is about educating the customer and educating the market around why it is important to, as part of your security um, realm and portfolio, is that managing the actual physical keys is probably the bit that's is most of the time overlooked. So people always look at access control and CCTV and cameras and perimeter detection. But at the end of the day, that little mechanical piece of metal, that key that has no intelligence behind it, typically gets put in a drawer and forgotten about. But reality, with the likes of master keys and handing keys out, they become quite a substantial risk to a business if they're not properly managed. But we also know that businesses rely on them on a day-to-day, right? We do know that whether it be in critical infrastructure or whether it be in mining, managing fleet vehicles or keys, whether it be in hotels looking for cleaners keys and contractor keys, for instance, that those keys are used daily, but they're not often tracked in the right way. So obviously it might be a paper book where someone's got to sign out or go to a security manager or a facility front of house manager to get keys to be able to go and do their daily job. Now that obviously adds quite a it's laborious in its first task, but it obviously creates a bit of a problem. You're making sure the paper trail's right and you're able to audit who has those keys, but then also to make sure that, Akil, if you had a set of keys, that you actually return those keys at the end of your shift or when you've done your
Exactly.
job, not that you
Yeah.
finish what you're doing, put them in your pocket and go home and then the keys are missing and then you've got to track them down and that creates a security risk. So what we look to
Yeah.
do is by implementing Taurus key cabinets and using our Taurus software, we add the intelligence behind it. First off, we can throw away the paper book, so there's no more sign in, sign out. People
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
use their credentials, either biometrics, access card PIN number, within an ID number to be able to
Mhm.
access the cabinet. And then only the key sets that they have access to will be illuminated in the cabinet and unlocked for them to be able to take. Basically, then when people take the keys in and out of the cabinet, we know that they've got the keys and we know that they've returned the keys. And we can then add to that some profiling, some analytics onto that process, which means we could SMS an email alert or we could escalate to managers to let them know that keys haven't been returned on time or haven't been taken when they were supposed to be taken. So really, it's really rounding out that process and reducing
Okay.
what I call the middleman, which typically is a security manager or a facilities manager who doesn't have the time every day to be standing there vending out keys, which can take up to 10 minutes per day per user. And it
Absolutely.
just adds a
Yeah.
lot of risk to the business. So what we do is we eliminate that straight away by putting a black box that you see behind me on the wall and really
Yeah.
putting it at the forefront and really controlling who has access from the start.
Amazing. Now, Jason, let's say, for example, a person by chance, let's say a staff member has just, I mean, finished his work and by some chance he has not returned the key. So in that case, suppose, let's say if he has not returned the key, do you think that you're going to keep any tracking system on that key with respect to the person and, get to understand that, okay, this person has taken the key and this kind of a thing is missing. So is there any chance of, exploring that kind of a, area? in the
It,
future?
it definitely is, right? And we do have partners that we have worked with that actually have that technology. So that's obviously attaching either beacon technology or technology like an Apple AirTag, not AirTag, but technologies like that to the key sets, which not only then tell you that the keys come out of the cabinet, but where the actual key physically is within the facility. Now it gets a bit tricky when you talk, university complexes or when you talk hotel buildings where there's lots of floors. But there is technology out there, and we do have a great integration program that we can work with businesses that may already have that technology in their organization, or they might have a partner that they want us to work with, and we can integrate that in there. So that basically you get what I call you get that whole life cycle of where that
Yeah.
key or asset. And I know I'm talking keys, but it's not just keys too. So it could be access cards, fobs, it could even be padlocks. So if you're talking in mining, they like to do lockout, tag out. So we can drive those type of technologies using the
Okay.
cabinet just to manage the key. So you're 100% right. Integrations with key management just become a no-brainer because really it does simplify it. And you can go that one step further when you're in that space. And you talk about visitor manager and contractor management. So when a contractor comes on site or a visitor comes on site, they can sign in at the visitor management system. And then if they needed keys, we can ask them what key sets they need. So reality is Taurus just becomes part of that larger security and management ecosystem within organizations. And it's quite seamless with the way that the product works.
That's brilliant, Jason, especially when you were just giving the mentioning about the mining thing. That was pretty niche. I mean, seriously, that idea of that you were, talking about, that stamping kind of a thing, where, whenever that person is entering the mining site, or let's say that the miner is entering the site, so then
Yeah.
he's actually having the idea, and, you're able to track the information and, collect the data. Okay, who has entered and everything that goes by.
Exactly, and that's the reality. When you implement a solution like Taurus or any other key management for that matter, the idea is that the solution needs to complement the business process. That you don't go and change your processes around your organization to fit Taurus in. So that's what makes us really, really powerful once it's implemented. If you integrate it into other systems, it really becomes seamless. And that's where you get the best operational efficiencies is by doing such, right? And reducing all the overheads that you have attached to it.
Brilliant, brilliant, Jason. So on that note, like you just gave me a clearance. Now I would like to, dive deep, deep into it. So Jason, like, can you mention about the excellence of the cloud first key management system over the other traditional, conventional, traditional setups in deep?
Yeah, I mean, so key management itself is quite simple, right? And again, I think everyone understands that now, but by how we've been describing it. But the point of difference here is that technology is continuing to evolve, right? And we saw in recent years that the ICT parts of business have really embraced the cloud. Whether it be Office 365, your Azure's, your Amazon AWS service to run service and infrastructures. But typically, the security segments of a business really are a little bit more risk adverse and haven't really taken the approach of taking the cloud. What Taurus did was really understood that that is where the world is going, and we are seeing large security management providers and access control providers moving that way as well. Whether it be your Genetec's, your Gallagher's, and your Honeywell's, are all starting to release cloud solutions for their access control platforms. What Taurus offers is exactly the same. We don't offer an on-premise solution.
Mhm.
What we do offer is that we offer it as a cloud-native IoT. So you get the benefits of
Brilliant.
the IoT. It
Yeah.
allows us to continue to evolve and develop our product and platform, and those features roll out to customer. But the biggest bit here is I'd argue that it's more secure to take on a cloud-based key management solution than an on-premise solution now, because of the way that we have developed our platform and deployed it. It is backed by Microsoft Azure and the 3,800 plus employees in Microsoft who are really just focused on cybersecurity in their own right. So we get that real-time intelligence around whether our solution is under threat, if there are any risks attached, or if there are any identified cyber threats to our platform. And that allows us to actively go and update that platform for our customers immediately, and without the customer having to redeploy. It naturally just occurs for the customer through the cloud. So they're always stay up to date with the latest security threats. We're able to mitigate them a lot sooner. Whereas any solution that is an on-premise solution would typically involve having to get a new release built and then have that then sent out to the consultant or to the customer or to the partner who owns the relationship with the end customer. Then they'd have to organize to go out to site and then deploy the new releases to the customer. That is quite time consuming. Well, you don't have any of those headaches when you take on Taurus. And it means that that total cost of ownership is a lot less. All right. It means that every time that there's a new release, it's deployed to you at no cost. You know, it's part of your subscription. You've got your cyber threat management all there. You don't have to invest in server technology. You don't have to invest in server licensing. You don't have to worry about redundancy. You don't have to worry about resiliency. And our recovery point objectives and time objectives are a lot less, right? We can get a customer back up and running quite quickly. Because we are co-located in the cloud, you know, if we were to have an outage, a customer would experience seconds of outage, not hours. And if they needed to recover at any point, Taurus can do that quite simply without, you know, our RPO and RTO, you know, quite small in comparison to what you would have with an on-premise solution, which would result in more downtime. So inherently, it's not only more secure, but it has a better uptime if you know, when a customer needs to upgrade.
That's brilliant. Now, Jason, you were just saying that there's an integration with Microsoft Azure and you know, again with the Microsoft suite going everywhere. Let's say, you know, what is the alternative technology that you would like to choose in place of this, in place of, you know, Microsoft Azure and Office 365?
Well, again, so from our perspective, we have lots of integrations. I think it's more to the point. So we integrate with Active Directory. So what we can do is we can bring all the user data sitting in an organization's Active Directory across into Taurus seamless. So you're not having to input user data and credentials into Taurus Cloud. Comparing the technologies and what we would use, I mean, Microsoft was a no-brainer for us, right? Based on its investment into the cloud. And I think what you'll find is Azure makes up about 30% of Microsoft's annual revenue right now. So they're continuing to invest, and it's only going to get stronger over the next 3 to 5 years. And as a matter of fact, we've got an article that we're releasing shortly around what the benefits are around taking on a cloud-based solution for that very reason, right? So that would be where I sit. But when you talked about Office 365, there's not really something we can integrate into Office 365 for at the moment. But what we do integrate with is the large access control type platforms or visitor management systems. So any of those big names that you see out there, and I mentioned a few before, you got your Gallagher, Honeywell, Genetec, InnerRange, Linnell. We integrate to those platforms so that basically Taurus just becomes part of that security platform's ecosystem, so much like a CCTV camera would or a perimeter fence. So what we look to do is work with those you know, tier 1 type access control platforms to build high level integrations, which basically integrate our solution as part of that security model, which obviously should give security managers and facility managers a bit of peace of mind out there, because what they have then is a platform that is, you know, that single pane view. They get all their access control, user alarms and events, but also anytime someone takes a key or returns a key to Taurus, that information's also fed back into the access control, and then they've got that full picture, don't they, of what's going on in their security world. So it's really impressive from that perspective, and I think that's what we want to make sure that the markets that knows out there is that when you are looking at a key management solution, or if you're going, do I really need a solution like this, that they probably should look to consider a solution like Taurus, because what it does give them is it gives them that end to end, right? And the benefits to them far outweigh the initial investment, right? We see customers get a return on investment in as little as 3 months to kill by taking on Taurus, because if you look at the amount of keys that they might have to vend, you look at the risk associated to it, and also the having to chase people if keys have gone missing, or re-key building if a key has been lost. That can add up to tens of thousands of dollars, if not more, depending on the organization. So it really is just part of what we do, and it's quite exciting.
Agreed, Jason. Now, Jason, when you were talking about, you know, you have entire data, like who has given the key and who has taken the key. So to have a complete, you know, outlook of that, let's say, you know, a bigger picture about that, are you using any business intelligent tools like, you know, Power BI and, you know, Tableau to, you know, just get a hang of the dashboards, or let's say the information that you would like to see?
Yeah, absolutely we do. You know, so we obviously, being in the platform that we are, we can now tap into the Microsoft AI suite to get some more analytics out. Now, here's the thing: is most customers that we work with have different requirements around what they want to report and what they want to dashboard. They might want to know, in some instances, if let's use fleet as an example, they might have a fleet of 50 or 100 vehicles within their organization. They want to know which vehicles are the most heavily used. They want to know which cars haven't been taken for 7 days. They want to know whether cars have been taken and haven't been returned in a period of time. So each customer has different requirements. With the way that Taurus works and us capturing every physical event that occurs at the cabinet and the date and time that that's been taken, as well as who's been taken the key, you can really start to draw a picture. So the short answer to your question is yes, absolutely we can. And the more that we work with customers, the more we can start to invest in that space. And I can tell you that's where we're at now. Is, you know, everyone bangs on around AI. AI is just the short piece of it, but more the analytics that we can get immediately out of this will allow us to start to drive what we want to do in the future around the more intelligent type solutions. Can you report into Tableau or into Power BI? Absolutely, you can. We have an API sitting there that we can expose to customers. It is
Okay.
secure. It is a secure API. We can expose that data, and they can pull that information out, and they can put it into any of those types of tools to report. They can put it into something like a Splunk. But more and more, what we do see is in these early days, and when when customers are looking to invest in Taurus, they really want to get in their access control to start with. And then once they've got the data there, then we can look at how they want to use that data more intelligently into the future, and then build some process around that. So it may be that if there's a set of keys that are out of the system, which might be high risk in a mining area, that we can actually say, oh, if these keys are out, we're going to prevent access to other keys because it could create a security risk or
Yeah.
a personnel workplace
Mhm.
health and safety risk. So every customer has unique requirements. Taurus allows us to build process on that using intelligence.
That's pretty innovative, Jason. Now, Jason, like, tell me about this. Like, Jason, what are the key initiatives that Taurus is taking to streamline things, and how do you think organizations are able to, manage, secure, and audit their keys? Like, what are the steps goes on with that?
Yeah, okay. So let's just look at it as a bit of a flow, and we'll use hospitality as an example. So hospitality and hotels are quite busy. And one of the big thing and the big drivers here is, if we'll start with cleaners in a hotel. Cleaners got to start their shift, as people are checking out, and they've got to get those rooms cleaned. And then once the rooms are cleaned, the cleaners have got to make sure they've done everything they need back at house, and make sure that they can get off shift on time, because the hotels also got to be conscious around investment in labor, which is where we can get them some savings as well. But what hotels don't want, is their staff waiting around to be able to issue keys, but they want to know that Jason and Akil have got their keys at the right time and that they can go and service the right rooms that they need to. But they also then need to consider the risk associated with the security risk for their guests in the hotel if those keys, for perhaps, are misplaced by a cleaner and picked up by another guest or someone who
Hmm.
could be wanting to create a threat within the hotel. So excuse me, reality is that we need to manage who has access to those keys and what time of the day they can get those keys out of the system. So Taurus does that natively, and we do that through a process called access schedules. But just looking at that in its whole, if it was in a hotel where they just had, what we typically see, a pegboard on a wall back of house, or a little key box sitting on the wall that's never locked because the manager that's there has gone to lunch and someone's going to need a set of keys and he doesn't want to get disturbed. Well, Taurus takes that away, right? Taurus allows it to be self-manageable, and people can only take the keys that they need. So the inherent savings there, if you look at it, so it's time. Reducing the time it takes someone to get a key. They can get a key when they need it and return it when they need it. It's the risks associated to it, reduced risk, because we know who has the keys and whether the keys are returned and whether a key has been potentially lost. We can inform a cleaner or another staff member that those keys haven't been returned on time, and then they can chase those keys down, so they're a little bit more agile and responsive to the threat early on. But also then you've got your guest safety in mind, that that there is no risk out there to the guest, because you're able to better manage and control access to those keys. So all of those, just in that one example, play to how Taurus can help improve the process and streamline operations within an organization. Hotels are also busy. They've got food and beverage, they've got concierge, they've got valet, they've got contractors coming in to service elevators and control rooms, within their facility, and they've got security as well that they need to manage. Outside building locks and doors, and access to car parks. So all of these keys typically sit somewhere within in a hotel, and I'm sure it's going to be quite familiar for people to understand. Yeah, wow, there's a lot to think about when managing key sets, and that's why I say they're often overlooked, because people, they're just keys and we put them in a box and we'll deal with them, but they are used heavily. And that's just one example in one market. Now, if you broaden that out to different markets, they have different requirements and needs, and they have different risks and different threats that they need to consider. So we depending on the market and sector, there's going to be different pain points and different value that Taurus can add. And that's what we do is we'll sit down with the customer or the partner to go, right, well, let's have a look at what those risks are and where they're going to get the best result and best improvements. And that's when we'll work out how we can best deploy Taurus into their environment.
That's good to know, Jason. Now, Jason, for example, let's say the person has misplaced the key, or let's say he has taken the key with himself. Now, is there any inbuilt, solution where, Taurus companies were looking to, integrate with WhatsApp so that, that person gets a notification saying that, hey, you've just taken this key at this particular time. Can you just return it within these 2 days, or else, I mean, otherwise an action will be taken, something like that. Is there any plan of...
we do that. We do that out of the box. Yeah, that's where the real benefit comes in. I basically say that Taurus is the concierge for, if we took a hotel, is a concierge service, right? So basically, it does it all for you, right? It really lets the security and facility manager getting back to what they do best, which is protecting and managing the business. And Taurus is an enabler for that, right? So yeah, we automatically will send email, SMS alerts, and these can be managed and configured by the administrators of Taurus. So we can send email, SMS alerts out, and then we can escalate those too. So case on point would be, let's say a key set is due back by 3 p.m. and at 3:15 the key isn't returned. The first process might be, let's send them an SMS and email alert to say, hey, don't forget the keys were due back at 3. That at least triggers in their mind, and hopefully they haven't left the facility and driven 15 minutes down the road. But that's better than them not knowing until 6 p.m. at night when the manager goes, oh no, the keys haven't been returned. Now I call them and they're 150 kilometers away. So what we're able to do is actually shorten up that and reduce what that risk profile looks like. But the great thing around escalations is you might want to issue someone a key for 7 days. And it might be that they're a contractor working. And at the end of every day, we could be sending them an alert to say, at least come and return the key to the cabinet, and then you can take it back out, so that we know that they've still got the key set on them. So again, that creates more of an audit trail and adds to the process. And we do see in some markets and customers that's what they look for, is keys can't leave site at all. So we can dial the key, the integration in to do what we call like an anti-passback, or stop the customer from, or stop the key holder from leaving the site. If they've got access control, so it could be a mine, they can't leave through the turnstile to exit the mine if they've got the keys. So we prevent them physically from doing that until the keys are returned. It could be in a hospital or in a prison setting, that there could be some keys that are in that facility that definitely can't leave a certain zone within the building or in the facility. So we're able to also control how that process works. So again, it goes back to when you put in a technology like Taurus, you would naturally expect that it has the ability to drive this through integration and through working with our integration partners to just enhance the process. And so what I said at the start of the podcast here is, you basically would put a solution like Taurus in to assist your process or improve your process. You wouldn't put Taurus in and then change your processes behind. So Taurus is quite flexible, and it can be molded to fit in with the process, and that's exactly how we wanted it to be when the team were building it.
That's amazing, Jason. Now, Jason, let's say, for example, in the mine, there's a person who's working, and he's having a serious health condition, and he has lost the key by chance. And in such a condition, do you take any, let's say, compromise, or let's say a concession where someone comes there and taps the key for him? Is there any
Yeah,
situation like that?
absolutely you can. Yeah. So again, obviously, health and safety is probably at the forefront when you talk solutions like this. And particularly in mines, if there is a risk and someone needs to get out, Taurus is just part of that bigger process, isn't it? So we work with the access control and the other partners within the security ecospace to be able to drive how that process works. So the risk associated with someone not being able to get off site in case of an emergency or whatnot is always taken care of. That's just part of how we build the process. But on that normal operational space, that's where we actually make sure that we can manage it. So there's always a way to make sure that the physical health and safety is taken care of. But yeah, that just becomes part of us when we sit down and we scope out the solution for the customer.
Awesome, awesome, Jason. Now, Jason, any success stories that you would like to, talk about Taurus company and your tenure as a technical director, international in Taurus company, and would you and is there anything that you would like to share with me and our listeners during this session?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, obviously, personally, from my perspective, it's been a short 10 months since we've launched Taurus internationally outside of Australia and the US. It's been extremely successful, more successful than we were initially hoping, thought it would be, which is great news. And we've got a great footprint, and we've got some great partners that have now come on board to take the technology. We are still looking for other partners across India and in the Middle East and Asia, because we've had such a great response that we are now looking for more partners to help us facilitate the solutions out to customer across those regions. And so we do have a comprehensive partner network that we've developed. So extremely proud of where we've got to in the 10 months from that perspective. But if I look at Taurus, I mean, Taurus, being an Australian-made product, it is best of breed when it comes to solution. Personally, I'm also proud of that. I know the Taurus team are around the success that we've had over our short few years with this particular technology. But if I look at one of the major projects that Taurus has done that I know the team are quite impressed around is, and I've got some data here so I don't mess it up. Taurus was tasked with implementing, it was about 150 key cabinets for one customer.
Oh,
And across commercial buildings across Australia. And they worked with security consultants to obviously meet what was quite a stringent specification. And the great news was that Taurus, we didn't have to do too much to the platform or solution to be able to meet what the requirements for that. Taurus, being a solution that is natively equipped with 4G, so you don't need a network to be able to drive. It can connect direct to the Taurus cloud securely using enterprise encryption. Really simply makes Taurus plug and play. So for an environment like that, and then to have their specification, which was quite stringent, and being able to roll that out across the 150 locations, it was a project that the team were able to deliver quite quickly for the customer. It resulted in significant reduction in overheads, and it was something in the vicinity of $950,000 that the customer saved within the first 12 months by implementing Taurus. Now, the investment in Taurus was far less than that, but they saved 950,000. So they saw a quick return on investment, and they had a product and a solution that was fit for their specification. But it also saved them, and this is the unique thing that customers always have to think about. A lost key can result in rekeying for a premises, particularly when lots of commercial buildings out there have what we call master keys. And those master keys, if they go missing, are quite expensive to rekey, because you don't have to
oh
rekey just
yeah.
one lock. You might have to rekey hundreds of locks. So that's bringing in locksmiths, getting new key barrels and keys made, and then rolling those out. That resulted in a saving of about $180,000 for that customer in the first 12 months. So Taurus is extremely proud about how we can bring such great cost savings to customers so quickly by investing in intelligent technology.
That's nice, Jason. So, Jason, any success stories that you would like to, talk about with respect to universities? Did you ever collaborate with universities and colleges in Australia, or let's say in the United States? Did you come
Yeah,
across
we
any chance
have.
like
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. So we do have universities are large complexes, and facilities, and they can span many kilometers and have different locations. So Taurus that's one of our core markets that we play in, and we do have some large universities that have many systems across their Taurus network. When you're talking, they could have upwards of 300,000 user records within their access control platform, and then using an integration to Taurus basically meant that Taurus sits there in our software, and they don't have to input anything into the Taurus software. They can use the existing data sitting within their access control platform, and then roll that information out across to Taurus. And then manage it. So if, let's say a staff member or contractor leaves and they get turned down in the access control, we'll turn them down in the Taurus software, so they no longer have access. But to build that network, that complex network of lots of key management boxes, or Taurus boxes sitting around their different facilities to manage the entire university's key profile, is incredible. And so we do a lot of work in the university of higher education space, and we are driving that now. There are some universities in Asia and also now in India that we are starting to have conversations with, where they do have keys. Yeah, and that's exciting for us, and we know that in the next 12 months we'll have some great success there.
Brilliant. I'm really looking forward for, hearing that news from you, Jason, for sure. Exploring into that space. Now, Jason, whenever you're, choosing a university, let's say, choosing a university as a client, like what are the prerequisites, or let's say, what are the, pre-drives that you do to, understand, okay, like the university is huge, the campus is huge, and how do you, have to fit the cabinets? Like, do you have any pre-preparation going on with respect to that, or, you just go with the flow?
No, we do. We have a whole process. So what we'll do is we'll sit down once we talk with the business, or a university in this particular case. We'll sit down with them and we'll do a scoping exercise. And we've got it's quite detailed, right? We want to understand the number of keys that you have out there. What are the keys used for? Are they facility keys? Are they security keys? Are they fleet keys? Because in one organization, there's lots of different levels to the number of keys and what those keys are used for, right? And there could be keys that are used by contractors versus staff versus students versus the public even. And so once we understand what the profile looks like, then we can sit down with the customer and actually start to build out how the solution will work and operate within their particular environment. And then you get to the next level of what we typically find is keys are managed quite often centrally in one location, which again, when you talk a large campus or complex, for people to walk across the facility to get keys and then return keys adds a lot of downtime, lost time, which adds up and is quite laborious. So what Taurus does is we can put key management at the edge, and it allows us to split the key sets up where they need those keys, which obviously results in quite a considerable saving of time. But then it allows that security manager to sit there and have that single pane view of their entire environment, both from a keys and security perspective. And then they can manage and track where those keys are. And then when they need to audit how long those keys are there, or present their reports to management, that they've got that single-handedly through our reporting module, which is inbuilt into Taurus. Okay, which again, the reporting part of Taurus is quite clever. We can create subscriptions to reporting. So if they wanted to report every day at 5 p.m. of when the keys were, what keys are still out, we can produce a report. If they needed a report to send to management on the 1st of every month that tells them all the key transactions and utilization, we can drive that, and that will automatically send as an email with a PDF or Excel report to the management. But then you mentioned right at the start around if you want to elevate that and pull that into Power BI or into another system, that can all be done too.
That's brilliant. Now, talking about universities, Jason. Now, Jason, we all are aware that, universities, students, they carry their ID cards. So does Taurus want to, venture into that space there where they want to, integrate even with the ID cards as well, where, the students have to, just come or let's say, tap for something? Like I know in universities, certain things happen in a rare case, but do you think, is there a possibility to, venture into this kind of domain?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I can't say too much in that space, but yeah, absolutely. So we obviously integrate with access control and be able to put card readers onto our technology. At the moment, what you see is the Taurus key cabinets, but there are other technologies that we are working with from a different space, from the inverse curve space, around being able to manage other assets, or whether it be other types of locker type solutions, or to be able to manage other types of assets, laptops or tablets or whatnot.
Oh, okay.
There are other technologies that we are investigating to deploy. So watch this space.
Brilliant. I think, Jason, then, if you're venturing into the laptop and tablet space, probably we need to have a part 2 for this podcast session. I'm pretty sure on that then.
We'll come back later in the year, yeah, and I'm sure I'll have some information on that for you.
100%, 100% for sure. Now, Jason, I'm pretty much aware that the backend technology that you're using primarily is IoT. Now, apart from IoT, what are the backend technologies that Taurus company is integrated with in deep? And along with that, what is the target market of Taurus company on the whole? Like, what is the target market that they are currently focusing on, and what are they currently eyeing on in the future?
Yep. Okay. Well, let's start with the simple bit, which was which markets and sectors we're focused on. So pretty much any market or sector, and this is the real easy answer, any market or sector who has keys, we work with, right? But primarily where we've had our best success, and where we know we give the best savings to customer quite quickly, and we know they've got high risk critical keys, pretty much is critical infrastructure. So utilities, telecoms, data centers, hospitals, healthcare. We play really well in that space, and we have lots of case studies and key examples of customers that we've worked with across the US and Australia. And now, as we start to venture into India and Middle East, we'll have some more case studies come on board quite quickly in that space. Other market sectors, government defence, that's huge for Taurus. Primarily built on our success here in Australia with the Australian federal government and the Australian Defence Force, where we do quite a large bit of our business is built on key management in those markets. Where else do we want to sort of play, or where else do we have success in? Higher education and universities, I said, but hospitality and commercial buildings really is it's a no-brainer from where I sit. That they are the markets that really need to, the sectors that really need key control quickly, because they spend an awful lot of time managing and tracking keys. And the thing here is that keys are going to be around. The physical key will still be around for many, many years. Anyone that tells you otherwise, that there's not going to be physical keys and it's all going to be based on access control and mobile credentials, is probably not considering that there's going to be quite a transition period over maybe 15 plus years for all organizations to really get to that point where it is completely safe and easy enough to be able to manage without the physical mechanical key. But that reality is the space that we play.
Awesome. Now, if you would just, like to jump back to this previous question where, what are the backend technologies that, Taurus company is completely integrated in depth? I know I have the understanding of IoT, but apart from IoT, what else is Taurus company, ventured into?
Well, so the IoT really is, that's the buzzword, isn't it? Internet of Things. But the technology for Taurus and what sits behind us is how our platform has been built. So we use Microsoft Azure wholly for our solution. And then our technology is using the Azure IoT Hub to power the connection between our hardware and our solution. And reality, that's the solution in a nutshell. So really, I can provide you some information we can share with the listeners of the podcast. But the reality is, it basically creates this whole box and this whole controlled solution for us to build the Taurus platform. And then to manage it going forward. And then you have the inherent benefits of all the security that comes out of the box with the Microsoft Azure. It is backed by Microsoft. And I said earlier on the call, I think that my last research is about 3,800 people across Microsoft Azure space that is solely focused on ensuring the security of the Azure IoT platform, which is incredible. So we have that backing built into our solution natively that the customer doesn't have to worry about. We'll stand there. We've got because we are based in Microsoft Azure data centers, we have our compliances, our SOC 2 is out of the box. And at the same time, any of our security threats, our zero-day threats are managed. And we get that real-time analytics if there is a threat, and we can manage that proactively and make sure that the solution is secure for the customer in quite a timely fashion without them having to run the risk of having this security threat in the world. So all the technology we use, Microsoft Azure is the platform of choice for us.
Brilliant. Now, Jason, if you would like to, explain the principle of IoT, let's say the working of IoT in simpler words, how would you, try to frame it out?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the easiest way for me to say it is we've seen, particularly in Australia, we've seen a lot of work done in our electrical and water utility provider space, right? Where they've gone and placed real-time monitoring to get, how much water usage you've had and how much electricity you've used, and they feed that back into their internal systems, much the same as SCADA systems do in a broader world. IoT is just part of that, right? So basically, it's the enabler. It is the technology space. So what we have built into our technology is, obviously I said, we got 4G capability as well as PoE, so we can power that system. But we get the real-time data and analytics coming back from the system using that technology. So there is no polling sitting there. There is no having to wait whether it goes, if it goes online, offline. That the power of IoT makes sure that the system stays alive for you, and you get the data feeding back without any human intervention, and it really just simplifies the management and less administration work to manage the platform. So from IoT, that's the benefits we obviously get, and then it allows us to continue to develop and evolve the platform. We want to do over-the-air updates to our platform, or if there is a new security update that's been deployed by Microsoft, naturally that will just roll out to our entire platform and customer base. And it's pretty much single deploy. We don't have to touch it. We can just deploy it out through our network, and it rolls out to all the devices. So that cost saving results in it costs less for the customer for the solution. It costs us less time to invest, less time and investment, to be able to manage the solution, because we can do it in one spot and then deploy it out across all of our sites.
That's a brilliant explanation, Jason. Probably, after hearing this podcast, people will get back to you and they would like to know more about IoT, and they would like to, know more in detail when it comes to the, the KT, or let's say understanding about it. Now, Jason, can you just give me a deep insight with respect to these, let's say the cloud first key management system aligning on the lines of, the biometrics, the access control, the visitor management, the vehicle management, and the identity management. So how do you categorize all these things together?
Exactly. So again, I mean, let's start with the identity management, because identity management has a little bit of it's probably the one where security managers and organizations go, oh, okay, when you talk identity, there's personal data there. So again, what we can also say with our solution, just quickly, is we can adhere to those GDPR requirements and data privacy requirements. With Taurus, we can deploy that. It's not a multi-tenanted solution with one database with everyone's customers sitting in that database. We can adhere to data residency and sovereignty rules and deploy Taurus out to the different markets and to the different DCs within those countries and regions and origins that require it. So that also is an added benefit to the way that Taurus operates, right? Which should give that peace of mind that data never leaves the shore of where it's hosted. And for the likes of the Indian market, Middle East, and even into Asia, that's really becoming something of a concern, where they don't want their data leaving shore. We've seen that here in Australia and the US, and Taurus can comply with that out of the box, which is great. So from an identity management perspective, let's talk to that. We can bring user data or identity information across using our integrations. Now, whether that be from access control, Active Directory, or any other PSIM type solution, we can integrate to. When you talk biometrics, Taurus can integrate to biometric solutions like your Sagems or your Morphos. We can embed, we can connect those technologies to Taurus, which allows biometrics, whether it be facial, could be fingerprint, vein scan. We can connect that technology using WeGAN or OSDP protocol. So what that means is, if you already have a biometrics technology within your organization, you don't have to go and re-enroll people. You can use that existing technology, which is another layer of security, and we can connect that technology to our cabinets, and then also have the integration layer sitting there. And then when you talk things like fleet management, we work with an organization, technology partner called IntelliTrack. They have a full fleet management stack solution, which is absolutely incredible, where they can do telematics and can track the vehicles within the facility, but the physical key, someone still needs to get access to. So we have an integration to their technology, which allows organizations to put the key box within their building. People can take the key, and they'll only be able to take the key if there's a booking associated to them. So we eliminate the mystery around which key set I need. So when they go up and they badge at the cabinet will open, and will only release them the keys for the car that they've booked. So again, this just shows you the different types of solutions that Taurus can actually can improve on process. And those technology partners are fantastic for us, because what it does is just showcases just how flexible a solution like Taurus is when we across the different needs.
Yep. So I would just, like to ask it as a data science student, Jason. Now, everything nowadays, it's all data. So everyone talks about, the data management systems, then, about the data warehousing, and then again, data lakehouse. A lot of things in the data is, completely expanding. So is there any chance where Taurus is, exploring into that phase, going deep into the data space, like, for example, the data warehousing, keeping records of their data, which is in the back end. So do you think that, that kind of a plan is also on for
Yeah,
Taurus?
we already do that. Yeah, it's a great question. So I probably can't go to all the details on this call, because it is quite complex, and there's some that probably we probably keep internal ourselves. But yeah, reality is we are there. Yeah, that's the great thing around what we are doing with our platform, is we already do that now, and that what that does mean, right? And when you are data warehousing, and when you are using that technologies out there, data lakes, and being able to connect to data using the right APIs, the solution is quite efficient, and it allows us to be able to be more secure as well with the data we grab. So we are using that technology kill behind the scenes, and we'll continue to advance that. And we've seen that over the past probably even 3 years, that it's just exploded with the way that the technologies are growing out. Whether it be data lakes, Cosmo DBs, whatever it may be. Where they're Databricks, we're across that.
Amazing, amazing. So, Jason, before we conclude our podcast segment, let's take a lighter route this time towards a rapid fire. Because, throughout the session, I was just talking all technical. I was talking about your tenure, your roles and responsibilities. So this time we'll take a pretty lighter route, and let's kick off with that as well.
Okay.
So, Jason, who's your favorite Australian cricketer of all time?
Who's my favorite? Well, this is going to be Ricky Ponting for me would be my favorite Australian cricketer. Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
And if I would just like to ask you, who's your favorite Indian cricketer, who would you say that?
Ooh, ooh, that's a tough one. I'll stick with Virat, because I like his tenacity. Right,
Oh
Virat
wow, hi
Kohli.
bhai. Even I'm a huge Virat Kohli fan. I'm totally mad about about the way he plays, and he's terrific.
But after the last series, Bumrah is also up there for me, because he had a cracking tour. So yeah, no, I'll stick with Virat. Or
All right.
I'd say Tendulkar as well, but I'm right now, I'll say Virat.
That's pretty good. So Jason, what was your do you remember, I've seen, I'm completely understandable that Australia has won many World Cups. So out of all the World Cups which Australia has won, which is the memorable one that you remember the most?
Mate, I think they're all memorable to me, so I wouldn't be able to pick one individual, but no, anytime Australia wins is a good win for me, right? So no, I'll stay on the fence. Any win.
Anyone of Australia, that
Yeah.
completely makes your day for sure. That's completely good. So, Jason, what was the first Hollywood movie that you watched as a kid, or let's say, during your childhood?
Oh, the first one I could probably remember would be Jurassic Park. Probably, I remember sitting down and watching that and being scared as a young kid. So I'd say Jurassic Park.
Awesome, awesome. What's your favorite Indian dish?
Oh, I see. I like really spicy, and so I'll say I like a good vindaloo. Is good for
Okay.
me. Yeah.
All right, all right. That's nice. So, Jason, what is your favorite holiday destination that you like? That you always prefer going there, like now and then.
My favorite holiday. So in Australia, so we got the Great Barrier Reef, and I like to head up to Port Douglas, which is just past Cairns, north coast of Queensland. It's a fantastic place to visit. I love to take the kids there.
Awesome. Probably that's there in my bucket list now. Previous time I've been to Phillip Island, and Phillip Island was like completely mesmerized me. It was so good. Now probably I don't know what's going to be my reaction when I'm going to see the Great Barrier Reef, because I've heard about it like completely. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place of the world.
I love to. I would love to visit that for sure. In my lifetime, at least once. Yeah.
When you next come to Brisbane, right? It's not too far to go a little bit further north.
Definitely, I'm always on, to travel to Brisbane someday, and looking forward for that for sure. Yeah. So, Jason, Honestly, I mean, it was a great conversation, and really thank you for taking time from your busy schedule and being part of the Techospace podcast session. It was lovely, especially. I mean, I just love the way you were talking about IoT, like when you just gave a complete simple understanding to our listeners about what IoT is and your roles and responsibilities as a technical director international for Taurus company, the key initiatives that Taurus is taking to improve and, let's say, streamline things. And along with that, the most interesting aspect that I found out was the success stories of Taurus company, because that is something like that's always on the high rank. So that was pretty much awesome. Yeah. Thank you so
No
much,
problems at all.
Jason.
No, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today, Keel. It's been great session, and look forward to catching up with you.
Amazing. So, listeners, before we conclude our podcast segment, this is an open request to all the industry leaders out there who are hearing to my podcast. So, if you have any key useful, interesting journey, or let's say key useful insight that you would like to share through my podcast episode or my podcast session, you could reach out to me on my email ID akhil.navluri55@gmail.com, or you could message me on my WhatsApp number that's present on the profile page of my podcast channel, or you could directly DM me on my Instagram handle, that is the Techospace Podcast, and I would get back to you as soon as possible. And who knows, it's going to be you next time, the next industry leader that I would be collaborating with. So on this note, this is your host Akhil Navluri signing off. We would be back with another podcast episode very soon with another industry leader. So till then, take care, goodbye, stay tuned, thank you, and over. Thank you.